Hi, and welcome to the Everything and Anything and a Bit Gay podcast. Today, I'm really excited to bring on one of my family members, my Aunt Denise, who lives in Madison, Wisconsin. Hi, Aunt Denise.
Hi, Zach.
So, today we have a family secret story we're going to tell you, and I'll set it up, and I have some questions for my aunt. But basically, the story is that as we both me and my aunt were growing up, we have been told our whole lives that we are Native American. I was supposed to be a quarter Native American or an eighth, and my aunt Denise was supposed to be a quarter or a half or something like that. And we were told this our whole lives growing up. At one point, my uncle Ted said that we should register as Native Americans, and it would help with college, scholarships and things like that. And he uh, worked for the United States government, and he was registered as a Native American. And um, I will say that him and my father did a lot of research into our family tree. How long do you think they were doing that for?
Oh my gosh, your brother did it forever, way before. Well, he started before DNA tests became a big thing.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't remember when Ted took his DNA test. It was one of the old ones when it was really expensive to do it.
Yeah. And so and my uncle took this test, and he found other Randalls, other family members, and knew them and met them. And I think he would go see them and stay with them for a while,
Yes.
and was kind of piecing together this family tree. And again, he did one of these early DNA tests. I think it was family tree DNA, and that's how he found out people across the country or maybe even the world and stuff. And him and my father would take trips together and go look in archives and find different family members. And would you like to tell everyone who we were related to, supposedly?
Well, I received an email from my brother, not your father, uh, that we had a connection to Pocahontas, and I thought that was kind of crazy because they only find the famous ones. But it
Yes.
was like a 12-point DNA match or something.
Yes. And we also, I heard at one point we were related to the top general in George Washington's army or something, of course. If it's got to be somebody famous,
Yes.
of course. Um, and so we, so the story is that I did ancestry. I got my results back. I called my aunt. I'm like, this is weird. Like, we were supposed to be Native American, but I have no Native American at all. I am all mostly from Europe, from the UK, Scotland, a little bit of Irish. I was always told, "Oh, you're German and Native American, and a little Irish," but there's no German really either at all. So that was kind of out the door as well. And then I asked my aunt, I'm like, "Well, will you do it so you can tell me? Like, let's do 23andMe together. I haven't done 23andMe. I only did Ancestry, and let's see if you have any Native American." So she got the test. I got my test. We sent them in. You got your test back first, right?
Hmm. And I had
And
no Native American. As you said, European. I found out later when we did ancestry, I'm almost half Scottish. So,
yes, and so the what we've been told our entire lives of being part Native American. And I have to say, my grandfather, my aunt's father, he does look Native American in a lot of ways. And we've heard stories about, and what was the relationship where two Native Americans got married or yeah.
it would be one of my great grandparents uh, on each side of his parents. So my the grandmother and the grandfather, or my dad's mother and father, were supposed to be half Native American each.
Okay. And so we got this test, 23andMe. I said, well, do Ancestry. Let's check that out. That way we can compare our ancestry test. And so my aunt did ancestry. We had our 23andMe test. We had our ancestry test. We start going through them, we're looking at them, and this is kind of at the when it was really kind of popular, and there was a lot of people sending in their DNA tests. So it wasn't like something you got back in 2 weeks. We had to wait
Mhm.
several months actually to get the results back.
Yes.
And when she got her ancestry test back, she realized, hey, I'm not even related to any Randalls in here. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not either. Maybe how can no Randalls, it's not that it's a super common name, but how can there be no Randalls that have ever done a DNA test? This is bizarre.
Or
And
even any of the names where, I mean, like his sister married a Nelson, and we
yeah,
didn't have Nelsons either.
yeah.
There weren't any family names that I recognized from my father's side.
And we also didn't see my uncle who did the original DNA test. We now know why, because he didn't do Ancestry 23andMe. He did a different test, but he wasn't showing up in anything as well. And then it was just all very strange to us. And we looked over it and we talked about it for, on and off for a couple of months. And then I think we both kind of realized something's not quite right here.
Yes.
And what we came to and then we also looked at what our DNA match was, and our DNA was lower than what it should have been for her to be my aunt. And I think you were coming up as like my cousin or something, and not, or you
Yes,
weren't coming
or
up.
a half nephew.
Yeah, something very strange.
Mhm.
And we just started, you know, we never would have thought, oh, I mean, I think we were thinking, oh, this is a mistake. There's something missing. And we started kind of talking through it over a couple of months. And then at one point, we kind of thought, oh, well, maybe you're one of us or both of us are not really Randalls. And that's where
Mhm.
we said, okay, well, it doesn't seem like my grandmother, my aunt's mother, um, my father and her father are not maybe her father. And so the way that we kind of solved that, because my father has passed away and we can't ask him to take the DNA test, we had my aunt's cousin do a test. And she's a Randalls. And she did the test. It came back.
She
And
was related to you.
she was related to me, but she wasn't related to my aunt. And this is the
She
cousin
was
she
not.
grew up with her whole life.
Yes.
So I knew that I was a Randalls, and we knew that my father was um, that his father was my grandfather. And then I think it hit us kind of at the same time, like, oh, but
Yes.
but it doesn't seem that Everett Randall's, my grandfather, is her father. And just to kind of give you a little bit of background about our family, that our grandfather was a very, very religious Southern Baptist man. So
Yes.
religion was the core of who he was, and it was more than either one of us wanted religion in our life.
Yes.
But we all obviously accepted it. But he was very religious, and there would have been nothing, you know. He followed the Bible and God as more than anybody could. So if there is a heaven, he's definitely there. We'll just say that. And so we kept thinking about it, and we reached out to our uncle, my Aunt Denise's brother, and we said, "Hey, like we have these DNA tests, and we're not Native American. Like, do you know anything about it?" And he said, "What? Like, uh,
Nothing.
nothing
Well,
really."
I had asked him kiddingly prior to getting the results, I'm not going to find out I'm adopted, am I? And he said, no. And I'm
Of course
not.
not.
I
Right.
wasn't adopted. I just, my father, who I thought was my birth father, is not my birth father.
And you'd found that out at 61 years old.
At 61, both my parents were deceased. Um, your father was deceased. I had no one to go to
Hmm.
even find anything out other than my brother.
And
So we reached out to him about that.
yeah, and so I sent him an email saying, "We found out we're not Native American, and you know anything about that? But we also found out that Everett Randalls is not. Denise Randles' father or biological father. Do you know if basically my grandmother, his mother, my Aunt Denise's mother, did she have an affair? Did something happen uh, where she had a child not with my grandfather? Because obviously she had the child, and because me and my aunt are related, but we found out that she is not, her father is not her father, or biological father, we should say. And so he basically cut off all communication with us.
Have
We
not spoken to him in over 6 years.
and we think that he knows something. There was a letter at one point. Do you want to talk about the letter that you found in the nightstand?
um, we were looking for some documents, and my mother had like an old candy box.
Hmm.
And I opened it up and looked, and I picked up a letter. And before I could get the letter out of the envelope, she snatched it out of my hand, put it back in the box, and told me it was none of my business and to stay out of it. I went back later, of course, being the nosy one I am, to see
Hmm.
what this letter was, and
Yeah,
it was no longer in that spot. It was gone, never to
yeah.
be seen again.
And the other strange thing is that my father and my uncle would go on trips and do research in archives. This was a constant thing that they were doing together, and they had a huge bond over trying to put together the family tree. And we they went to North Carolina or South Carolina at one point, uh, maybe 5 or 6 years before my father passed away, and all of a sudden family trees stopped. It just
Yes.
it was a complete halt. We never really questioned it, I guess, because but it was bizarre how there was no more talk about the family tree. So we're pretty sure there was something found during that research that they were doing, and we
Whether
don't
it
know.
was proof that we're not, or the Randallses are not Native American, or whether it had something to do with me, we don't know. It ended. And there were reams of that old paper that your dad would
Yeah,
just print out. I mean, he had floppy disk and everything on
yeah,
this. Unfortunately, my older brother is the possessor of all that information and will not provide it back to us.
yeah. And I mean, he's again completely cut off contact with us, and we don't know why. He if he knows something, my email to him was asking a simple question about that something happened that he knows about, and he just would he completely cut off communication with not just me but my aunt and my mother, who him and my mother talked probably at least every other day, and he just completely stopped talking to her because of this family secret that we found out. And I guess he just thought we would never find out. Is
I
my guess.
I don't know. I mean, I continued to try to reach out to him on his birthdays for like 3 years maybe after that, and he would never pick up the phone. If I called, he would never pick up the phone.
Yeah.
So I finally quit. I'm like, okay.
And when as you were growing up, did you ever have any suspicion though that something like this could be reality? Did you ever? I mean, the one I seen you and Grandpa, your father, you were always seemed to be everything to him. I don't think he knew.
Oh, he had no idea. There, none whatsoever. I was the apple of his eye.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm a product of nurture, not nature, obviously, because we have so many interests we shared, especially in politics, that I he drugged me around places, and he was always there, and there's no way he knew. I can look back at some things as a kid and wonder if my mother had an inkling.
Mm.
I don't know whether she knew or not. Uh, I don't know.
And to be fair, we don't know if this was an affair, a one-time thing that she could have had, or if it was something that she was, it wasn't
If it was,
consensual.
yeah,
It could have been any of those things. And if it wasn't consensual, it definitely wouldn't have been talked about back in those
no,
times. And if it was, then she still wouldn't have, talked about
no.
it. So it's just something that was not. back in those times, especially being in such a religious family as well. It
Yes.
would have never been accepted. So, um, and I think it's so. How do you feel about it today? Like, what is your feeling about it? Have you come to terms with it? And I've kind of been through this journey with you, and I'll tell you what I feel, but I would like to know like how you're feeling about it.
I think I've come to terms with it. At first, it was extremely upsetting, um, because I felt like my father's blood did not run through my veins. I mean,
Hmm.
I felt like I wasn't a part of him. I had lost so much.
Yeah,
And as time went on, I realized no matter what, he's my pop.
yeah,
He's my dad, he's my father, even if he's not my birth father.
yeah,
And I went through that, and then I was mad that I never had the option. It was never,
yeah,
and they may not have known, but if they did, it angers me that I didn't have the option of trying to find out more,
yeah,
more of family that might be out there or connections.
yeah,
But but it is what it is. I would not look if I had a sibling come up on either of the DNA sites, I would
yeah,
reach out to them. I think I have like a very close cousin or whatever.
yeah,
Their segments are almost up to yours. So
yeah,
I figure it's probably an uncle of this person. But at
yeah,
this point, with everybody gone, I just don't think I'm going to try to stir up anything to find out. I'm good. I got enough
yeah,
family.
yeah. And I think it would be. I'm surprised this person hasn't reached out to you, and you have to be prepared one day that he could reach out to you.
He could.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's a small town where he lives and where you grew up, so it could happen.
It could, except back home, all everybody's almost related to everybody. So you had these little people pop up all the time
Yeah,
that that you're related to. But usually it's a very small amount,
yeah.
you know, and this is a pretty significant connection.
And the other thing I think was really sweet is whenever you found out that your cousin was related to me and not you, and you
Hmm.
called her and she's told you, you're still my cousin, you're still my
Hmm.
family. So no matter what, even if it's not blood
Hmm.
related, like she still like loves you the same, which was I think
Oh
so
yeah,
sweet.
well yeah, because that was her question to me. She goes, "You're still my cousin, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she said,
Yeah,
"Yes, that's how I feel. We're related." She is the only one in her family that knows. Her 2 sisters do not know, the one that I was really raised with almost constant. But,
they may know
you
now
know,
though.
they may know now. It's not like a secret I hide anymore. I don't say it a lot. My father's name is really well known back home,
Yeah,
but, he didn't do anything wrong. We don't know that anybody did anything wrong. It was
exactly.
he was a good man. He was a good father. I had a
Yeah,
good I had a good
you
I
had
had
a
a good
good
family.
childhood. Yeah, you
I
had a
did.
good family. And I think it's really great that you've got to that point. And like I said, I've been with you where you found out you were confused. We weren't believing it. We were trying to come up with alternatives, like, well, it could have been this. And then I think we really, at the same time, almost said, all right, well, this is the reality. And
Mhm.
then I think you went through I'm pissed off stage and why did this happen? And how can you find out at 61 your father isn't your real biological father? And so it was interesting to go through, I think, that phase with you. And then I think one of the things that helped you is that Facebook group that you found where you realized this is so common. There's
Oh,
thousands and thousands of people.
and not just people my age, younger. I mean,
Yeah.
it's happened all through the generations. People who thought maybe may not have realized or thought it wasn't something. I have a very close friend who found out. They did the DNA testing, and we were shocked that her father is not her father. She's, I don't know, 10 years younger than me. No,
Yeah.
she's closer than that. But yeah, her
Yeah.
that was kind of a shock for her too.
Yeah, and you see there's documentaries about this now and stuff, but people finding siblings that they never knew that they had, or half
Mhm.
siblings, or but I think finding out one of your parents is not your parents is probably one of the bigger shocks more than finding a sibling. So
I have to agree.
yeah,
It would be not. It would be nice to have another sibling out there. As
yeah,
you know, family's always been really important to me. So I
yes,
would, since my brother has decided I'm not his family, it would be nice to have a half brother or half sister
yep,
out there. I would reach out to them. Other than that, I won't. I'll leave it be.
yeah. Well, maybe one day you'll change your mind. I would love to help you with that adventure if you do
I
do
know
it.
you would.
If anybody else has a story like this, we'd love to hear from you. And do you know the name of that Facebook group that you joined? Any idea what it is?
Oh,
Just
it's DPE or something. Hold on. Go ahead and do your thing, and I'll look it up.
yeah. And so I mean, when you go in there, you'll realize it's. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people as these DNA tests became more commercial, have people are finding this information out, and I think. In some ways, it'd be really cool if I found out that I had a brother or a sister, or half brother or half sister. But I think I'd also be a little like, well, how did this happen and stuff? Did my dad cheat on my mother and stuff? And obviously he didn't. And I don't think I have any brothers or sisters out there, but I think it'd be kind of cool if I did. But well, that's how it goes. So this is the last episode of this first season. I wanted to thank everybody for listening. I've had over 5,500 listeners, and I have no idea how that happened. And I'm really grateful for everybody that's listened. And I'm working on content for season two. I've met someone on TikTok. His name is Ginger Ale, and he is a gay man that is doing videos to find for his future husband to listen to one day. And he's looking for a husband. And I reached out to him, and he is going to come on the show, and we're going to see if we can find him a future husband on my show. We're also going to give you an update. If you listen to the last episode, we were not successful in finding Mandy a husband on Hinge. So we're going to try another app like Plenty of Fish and see if we can find some real people that maybe she would go on a date with. Also, going to talk a little bit about growing up and living in South Beach during college in the 90s and going out 7 nights a week as a club kid and having my roommate Lise, who listens to the show, and maybe I'll bring her on here and she'll want to be a part. We can talk about all of our adventures, seeing Madonna and other people out in clubs. And also, I got one more really great topic from a friend, Erin, talking about how her and her husband are married and they're living separately because of children having to go to different school districts and custody and all that. So I'm going to bring my friend Amy in to help me talk about that and get some advice and opinions from Amy. So all that's coming next season. So stick around and subscribe to my podcast. Did you happen to find out the name of that Facebook group?
I didn't, but I will find it, and you can put it in your notes underneath or
Okay,
something.
that sounds great. So thanks everybody for listening. Thank you, Aunt Denise, for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, and everybody be sure to subscribe to my podcast and send me some DMs and tell me what your thoughts are. The Real Zachary on Instagram. Thanks for listening, everyone. Bye.